guys, welcome to my dining room table. I'm going to do a demonstration for you all tonight and some colored pencil techniques that you might be using for your drawing. We're coming back to the thematic drawing, so hopefully by now you've had a chance to add your thematic questions to our Google Doc. It's really nice to see your names popping up again. I miss being in the classroom, and it's just great to kind of hear from everybody, even if we can't see each other in person. The steps were, think of a theme that you want to work with. The next step after that is to do some thumbnail sketches. We're going to work in a square format to do some thumbnail sketches for your concept. So how are you going to explore your theme or the question through imagery? I'm an illustrator, so I tend to think more like an illustrator. You could have more of an abstract response to the theme. It doesn't need to be narrative in quality, but that's just kind of the way that I think and I work. So when you see my examples, you'll see that. This is here are my thumbnail sketches that I did. And I'll have a sample of this on Google Classroom. And then from there, I got some reference, and I took the concept that I thought was the strongest or got my idea across the best, and I drew it out in more detail. This is a 4x4 inch square. It's not very big, it's small. So even though we're going to still try to achieve the things that we were trying to achieve this semester, we're going to be cutting things back a little bit. They're going to be a little bit smaller, not as time consuming to complete. So here's my drawing over here, and I'm going to be finishing this drawing with colored pencil. I did a little example. I'm not expecting you guys to do this, but I want you to see some of your options as far as techniques and how to achieve different values, intensities, warm, cools, so that when you get into your drawing, you'll be able to incorporate some of that. And for some of you, you may be familiar with some of this already, which is great. So then it'll be more of a kind of a refresher. But I'm looking for your drawing to incorporate several of these techniques from this. So, layering the color to achieve a range of value, to achieve a range of intensities, or to go from warm to cool, or burnishing. Burnishing is a lot more solid, a lot more pressure. Layering is a little bit lighter and more of a cross-hatching technique. Here are my Prismacolor colored pencils right here. Any kind of colored pencil will work fine. Prismacolors are, it's a nice colored pencil. Especially when you get down to the burnishing. So I'm going to start with value. I'm cross-hatching, while hatching in one direction here, and I want my values to be very light, so very, very light pencil pressure. And to get an even texture, I come at it from a couple of different angles to get it nice and smooth. Medium value, a little bit more pressure. Darker value, a little bit more pressure still. And I might even layer in a little bit of black or darker value red if I had it to darken the color. For intensity, we're talking about taking out the saturation of the color. So in this one, it's going to be the most saturated red. And to desaturate a color, I have a couple options. I can add brown or another neutral. I can add gray. Or I can add the complement. I'm going to try by adding the complement. So I'm going to go in here with the red. And I'm going to add a little bit of green over top. It's going to take out some of the intensity of that red. And then red for the final one. And here we're going to put a little bit more green, and I'm really going to try to cancel out the red with this one. Almost like a brown. And then for warm to cool, I'm going to start in the middle on this one. Get a little red in here. Red is one of those colors that warms up and cools down really nicely. Green also warms up and cools down really nicely. Some yellow, layer over top of the red to warm that up. And then I'm going to get a little bit of blue. Layer over the red to cool it down. Okay, so the next technique I want to show you is burnishing. Now there are additional techniques for mixing colored pencils. You can actually take a little bit of like paint thinner, terpenoid, and you can mix it a little bit like a little thinner to kind of blend the color. They also have these, they're called colorless blenders. You might have one where it's a colored pencil, but it has like a waxy thing, and you can kind of push. Actually, that's really helpful with burnishing, to kind of get the color to blend a little bit. But that's another way. This is typically what I do most of the time when I'm working with colored pencils, the layering and the burnishing. For values, I'm going to use blue this time. It starts off very similar to the layering. I'm going to crosshatch some color in here. But I am going to start to introduce a little bit more pressure to it. And a lot of times with burnishing, you can even go from a crosshatched approach to, you can kind of, do circles. You're really starting to push and you're building up that waxy surface. And then white blends beautifully over top and really helps with the burnishing. So I'm going to go over the lighter blue with the white. And here you can see a big difference. Here the white is getting the lighter value and really mixing in. With layering, it's just the light pressure. It's creating the lighter value. I'm going to go with some black. And then as I add more of the color, it starts to push it around. It's really solid. And I can even, if I've got a different blue, I could even burnish a different blue with the blue. That's kind of a nice. Okay. Three values. Now intensities. So if I'm using the blue, got my pure blue here. Thinking a blues complement on the color wheel is orange. So I'm going to jump over here to the dullest one, mix the orange in. Creates a neutral brown. It's interesting though with color pencil because you can still kind of see both colors. And then just a little bit in here to knock that intensity down. Mostly blue, but a duller blue. Because I want this pretty intense. I am going to bring in a little more blue with that, the lighter blue. Now typically when you're working on creating something kind of realistic, or just to have form and have dimension, your highlights are going to tend to be lighter in value and warmer in color and brighter in intensity. And your shadows are going to tend to be darker in value, duller in intensity, and cooler in temperature. That's something to keep in mind. All right, and now warm and cool. So blue. Blue is so cool as a color. I could shift this a little bit, probably towards purple on this side, and then a little towards green, because on the color wheel, green would be warmer, or heading towards the warm. So I'm gonna grab the purple, burnish that in with my blue. Kind of an analogous thing too, actually. I have the blue violet, the blue green. And if I wanted to, I could even mix a little bit of the yellow in. I'm warming that up. A lot of color is relative, so it really depends on the color that's next to it. It's what makes it look warmer or cooler. And some more of that blue again to burnish that in really nicely. All right, so I hope that demonstration was helpful for you. I'm going to now I'm going to work on my final drawing here and try to incorporate some of these techniques that I just demonstrated into the final drawing. My thematic question was, how does coronavirus expose the inequality in America? So I am thinking of using the reds and blues in the drawing, bringing the cool blues more into the foreground and the warmer reds more towards the background. So I'm trying to think about how I'm going to use color, light and dark values and saturations of color to help to communicate the idea, the concept behind my drawing. I'm really looking forward to seeing the drawings that you guys do. I hope that you're staying well, and I hope that drawing and art is one of those things that's helping you to get through this difficult time. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.